Hello, this is my post-internalization video, and I did my process on week 2 of astronomy, which is all about navigating the sky. The way that the lesson is set up, it is aligned with our national science standards where a phenomenon is presented and students are digging into what they know about that phenomenon and what they don't know, and then learning some content and trying to add relevancy to their knowledge of that scenario and then trying to solve it after gaining that new knowledge. So the standards that they were looking at was to be able to apply astronomical cycles to what they see in the sky, their observations. The phenomenon was based on sailors who had limited ability to use technology, probably even limited use of tools to be able to find out where they were, and they have to use the sky in order to figure out where they are and which direction to head. So they needed to have some background information like knowing the celestial sphere and the parts of the celestial plane, such as the zodiac, the nadir, zenith, the ecliptic plane, and then the constellations as well. And they needed to be able to find the North Star and be able to use that to then interpret where other stars are at, and then also know which stars or which constellations are circumpolar. In other words, they don't set, they stay in the sky and rotate a certain way. And all that information combined, when you put it together, would allow you to know where, generally where you are, what your latitude is, and potentially your longitude on Earth, as well as what direction you are headed. So that was the phenomenon that they looked at. The common misconceptions that we see, a lot of students think that the lines that you see on a star map or on a star chart that connect the stars to make constellations are actually up in the sky or somehow visible in the sky. Those are called asterisms, and the difference between what a constellation and an asterism is comes into play a lot with this phenomenon and with these skills. So I have students look at a blank map of the sky, just stars, like nothing is on it, and it really is challenging because it is what you would see if you were in the middle of an ocean and you're on a boat. There's no lights around you, so you're able to see every single star that's out there, as well as probably the Milky Way, depending on where you are. And so locating the North Star and being able to use that to infer patterns of where constellations are and what stars they see is part of the work that they do in this week. So some of the tools, they learn how to use a sextant, they learn how to use a compass, they learn about different colors of stars in order to figure out, if there's a couple stars that are near each other that are about the same brightness, how can you tell them apart? And oftentimes that's through color. So we go through all of that. In terms of reflection, they are using different assessments to reflect on how they are doing to meet this challenge, and then they also are giving each other feedback, peer-to-peer feedback, in order to determine where they are on the Earth and see if their peers agree with them. Some of my big takeaways, I don't feel like this was a super helpful process, to be honest. I feel like this idea of working through a lesson is something that we do kind of inherently, and we're building the lesson with those pieces of knowledge. One thing that I really did appreciate about this process was creating the exemplars, because without just giving the answers away, it's really challenging to give an exemplar of what it might look like. So that was really quite a difficult thing, and I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how can I provide an exemplar that doesn't actually give the answers away. So I think that was probably the most helpful part of this process for me, was really pushing myself to figure that out and find some ways that that's not going to steer them in the wrong direction, because I don't want to give the wrong answers either. But there really is one correct answer to this. And so I needed to develop some ways to kind of give them some guideposts up in the sky without actually giving them the answers. And that was really helpful for this process as well. Something that still needs to be completed, I would love to come up with different ways to almost have different stories or different phenomena that are available to students, and maybe have them work in groups if they wanted to, or have so many scenarios that students could work individually, but each one has their own story, their own location on Earth, and therefore their own sky that they see, and therefore their own correct answer. That would be amazing to be able to get to that point. So I hope that this is helpful to walk through my internalization process. Thanks so much for listening.